Welcome back to the Sapphic podcast. I am your host, Nisa, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Ellie, and we are coming at you with a very special Valentine's Day episode, talking about built to last, couples who will go the distance. Ellie, how's it going?
It's all good. I've actually been really excited about finding couples for this episode.
I mean, of course, it's gonna be fun. You're thinking about all the best couples.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot that I actually forgot about. And so doing research for this episode, I've gone back and rediscovered them, which has been really nice.
So, Ellie, you are engaged, obviously, and have been in a long-term relationship. So what do you think makes a good relationship or an enduring relationship?
Communication.
I feel like that's a given.
I think everything comes back to that. There is nothing you can't fix with good communication with your partner. And my partner's currently sat next to me and she's giving me the thumbs up at the corner of my eye.
I mean, as long as we have partner approval.
Yeah, Alex approves.
How long have you guys been together?
We met in 2022 in April, so a couple of years. And we did do the U-Haul and we moved in together very quickly. So we've been living together for quite a while.
That's so gay.
It is so gay. I know. I'm a cliche and I hate myself for it.
Sure you do.
Yeah. But when I think about all the times that could have potentially led to an argument, we stump it out with communication. And Alex and I do this thing where we have check-ins with each other a couple of times a week. So we'll say, how are you doing mentally? How are you doing emotionally? How are you doing spiritually? And how are you doing physically?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so we ask those 4 questions a couple of times a week just to check in and make sure that we're all okay and all on the same page with each other.
That's nice.
Yeah. So communication is key for a happy relationship.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to see a lot of couples out of you that have great communication.
Yes. But I feel like, come on, I mean, compared to me and Alex, we're novices compared to you and your wife.
I mean, we've kind of been together for a little bit now, I guess. We've been together since 2020, and we got married in 2013. So, 12 years
Hold
married.
on. Wait, take that back. You've been together since 2020.
I'm sorry, 2010. We've been together since 2010 and married since 2013. So, 15 years together come June. And 12 years married come October.
Yeah, it's so cute.
Yeah, I guess. We do have 2 kids, though, that have added to the hecticness of it all. So.
I mean, kids will do that.
Oh, yes, they will. They test my ever-loving patience, but I love them, so.
Then it all worked out. And what's the key to a good relationship? One thing from you.
I gave you shit about it, but communication. I think trust is a big one. Shared goals. When you start thinking about like the larger picture, probably some very heavily on vulnerability. Respect is a big one. And then it sounds. When I say this, it's gonna sound bad, but it's kind of hard to explain, and I'll kind of explain it as I saw it in a few of the books, but a willingness to kind of sacrifice, because there are times where, like, maybe your pride will get in the way of something, and so being willing to just drop that, or thinking about what's best for the family, what's best for the other person, and kind of, you could almost say it's compromise, but sometimes it's not a compromise. Sometimes it's just one of you has to put the other in front of yourself, and care more about them and what makes them happy and what needs to be done. Especially like thinking about my own marriage. We've moved around a lot, we've moved jobs a lot, and so it's one of those where sometimes you got to think about the family as a unit, or the person, and how they play into your family, and kind of making choices based on that. And that's why I think shared goals is also a really big one, is because if you guys know what the end goal is and what your family dynamic looks like, and what both of you want out of life, it helps kind of inform some of those decisions in the future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That was so
I'm glad
cute.
you agree.
I do. So, what are we saying for your relationships that are built to last?
So, I have my spreadsheet, the
Mm-hmm.
compendium of everything that I've read. And couple strength is one of the ones that has its own category separate from chemistry, because chemistry can be fleeting. But couple strength really shows what is built to last. And so I've presented like my top five in that category. And this is in order. Although the last three have the same rating, so they're tied for third, really. So number one, Gianna and Riley from On the Same Page and the Next Chapters. Then I have Carolyn and Hannah from When You Least Expect It and Better Than Expected as number two. And then tied for third, I have Fabiola and Cameron from Body Check by J.J. Arias, Denny and Eliza from Wrong Number, Right Woman, and Lucky Yellow Shoes. And then Ren and Madison from Purposefully Accidental by G. Benson. Those are my top five. What about you?
I only have a couple, and I would like to just say that I think the two authors that I think do this best are Jay and Quinn Ivins. I think those two authors, even though I'm not going to mention their books in the books I mentioned specifically, as a whole, I think those two write the best couples that are built to last.
Okay.
But in terms of books, I have Separate Like Stars by Diana Kane and The Art of Us by K.L. Hughes.
Interesting. The Art of Us. Didn't
Mm-hmm.
they divorce in that? Or break up? Were they
broke
married?
up,
Okay, they weren't married.
but they did the same thing in Separate Like Stars.
Really? You think the couples that are built to last started with a breakup?
Yes.
Ooh, I'm gonna need you to dive into those before I dive into mine, because I think that's intriguing.
So we'll start with Separate Like Stars.
Okay, I haven't read that one.
So we have Jordan and Olivia, and this was one of the books that I read, and it was written so emotively that your heart broke with every angsty interaction that they had. And what basically happened was they were together, head over heels in love, and they were quite young. And then Jordan unfortunately breaks up with Olivia due to circumstances I can't get into for spoiler reasons. And the whole book is essentially them finding their way back together.
Okay.
But Jordan then goes on this journey of winning back Olivia, and she does it in a way that is like, listen, you are it for me. I will do whatever it takes to prove this to you. And I can see you pulling a face, but it's one of those stories that I read, and when the book finished, I was like, they will be together forever now. They've overcome this obstacle, and they've dealt with this heartbreak, and they've grown stronger from it. And so when the book ended, I was like left with no doubt that they would be together.
Interesting. So I guess communication good in that one then?
Yeah, it took them a minute. But yes, Separate Like Stars was a book that was built on bettering yourself, not only for yourself but also for your partner. And I think it was a really mature take on second chance romances.
Okay.
And it leads me perfectly onto The Art of Us. That was another book that dealt with breaking the person you love the most heart, but then finding your way back to them. And I think the reason that these two books, for me, were the best examples of relationships that were built to last were because they faced the adversity head on in their relationships and they overcame them. And I was left with no doubt that their relationships were stronger after it. I think simple love is easy. Meeting someone and falling in love with them and never having to face issues or never having to overcome obstacles with one another is easy. And it's easy to say you love someone when you haven't been through hard times together. But these two books showcased probably the worst of the worst in each other, and they still loved the other person despite it.
And I think I agree. I mean, I do agree. I guess the only part I get hung up on is that they did break up. So when the adversity hit, it didn't endure. And so I know I read The Art of Us. I'm trying to think because I don't want to downplay what their adversity was, but it seemed like, and this is kind of where I talk about sacrifice, um, is it didn't seem like either of them was willing to sacrifice for their relationship because that was what pulled them apart was the distance and where they were working versus where they wanted to be. And again, that goes to those shared goals, um, where their goals didn't align in such a way that they were on the same page about where life was going to carry them. They were too proud to put aside what their goal was ultimately for the sake of the relationship. Um, and so it's another one where I see proximity come into play, which I kind of mentioned in our Friends to Lovers. Alex comes back to town. That's where I say is they didn't seek one another out. They weren't really looking for it. And in fact, I think Alex was trying to avoid bumping into her ex for some period of time. And they were both with somebody else. And so it's one of those where I'm like, for me, I wonder if they would have ever gotten back together in the first place if, like, Alex didn't move back. It didn't seem like either of them were willing to still, even at the end, like, they didn't seem like they were able to put aside their pride, their goals, their ambitions to say, hey, I want to work on this relationship with you. I think I made a mistake.
Mm-hmm. I think it comes down to, and you're going to think I'm so cheesy for saying this, but the idea of fate and the idea of, like, having a red string with someone.
Oh, for fuck's sake. You're right, I am going to roll my eyes.
I do think you are fated to a person. And I do believe in maybe fate's the wrong term, but you can have a right person at a wrong time. And I think
True.
that you can easily lose someone that you love because it's not the right time for you to be together. But if it's meant to last and you're meant to be together, you will find a way at a time later to be with one another.
I do love the right person, wrong time trope. And so I'm having a hard time debating that.
I think that's what the case was with these two couples. I think it was right person, wrong time. And when they found one another again, for whatever reason brought them back to the other, they realised that they didn't want to lose the other one again, which is why I think they're built to last.
I could see them saying that they wouldn't want to lose that a second time now that they've seen that. I guess I can see a little bit of that. I just didn't see the growth, I guess, I needed to see out of them to think that they would last, but I could see it. There are right people that you meet just at the wrong time. I do love that trope to death, so fine. I relent.
Thank you.
I actually, on my list, kind of, one of those, I'm giving you a hard time because they broke up and got back together. I do have one on my list where they broke up and got back together, so.
Which one?
So Fabiola and Cameron from Body Check by JJ. So in Body Check, you have Fabiola, or Fab. She comes back to, I think the show's called Cutthroat Island, and she is expecting to compete in like a second chance competition. But the twist, because there's always a twist, I feel like, in those things, is that you're not competing on your own. They're taking the person who was like your biggest rival in the previous seasons. And I think a lot of them ended up being previous winners. And now you are paired as a team and you have to compete together. And that's the only way you can win the money. And so you find out through the course of it that Fab and Cam had actually fallen for each other during the course of the first season that they were in together. And Cameron double-crossed Fabiola. You find out more as it continues. I'm not going to give you too many spoilers because I do know you want to read it. But with that, Fabiola has lost trust in Cameron completely. And Cameron is coming back basically saying, please just talk to me because I have realized I've made the biggest mistake of my life by doing this and double crossing you. And I just want to try and make amends for that. And so it's about how they come together through the competition to be a team so that in Cameron's mind, she needs to win this for Fab because she doesn't think Fab is ever going to forgive her unless they win. And she can make it right by making sure Fabiola gets money out of this. And so it's like her coming back to make amends. And she had actually stated that when they first approached her about coming back, she had told them no repeatedly. And it wasn't until the producers told her that Fab will be coming back that she said, oh, yes, I will agree to that. I will come back for Fabiola. Mm-hmm. And so I think the thing that, the reason I think that they are built to last is, yes, there was that loss of trust, but through literal teamwork, they have to rebuild that trust in one another. Literal teamwork. This time they have to rebuild that trust, and Fabiola has to start to see Cameron as somebody she can rely on. And even at the end of, like, the book, there comes an inflection point where Fab has to put her trust into Cameron in a big way, in a major way. And you're worried that Cameron is going to betray her again. But Cameron doesn't. Good. Just throw that one out there. So I think now it's gotten to that point where that trust was rebuilt. Cameron understands because she's, like, gone through it, understanding what it's like to lose Fab and really sit with the decision, because it's years later, sit with the decision and understand the implications of what she did. I really think that Cameron has grown enough and has shown Fab that she's grown enough that she rebuilt that trust. And then the other elements of it is that because they have to work as a team, they have that embedded communication, and they get to the point where even when they were at each other's throats, they had communicated really well in that first season they were in together. They knew each other really well. And it was one of those where they could almost read each other's minds on what the other was thinking. They had covered, like, what each other's fears were, like, how their families were. Like, they communicated all of that. And so they already had that solid communication. And kind of secondarily to it, they were willing to sacrifice for one another. Because throughout the show, they have to continuously sacrifice. And then, like I said, there's that inflection point where Cameron could very easily screw over Fabiola again. And it's through a sacrifice that we even have that set up. And then, of course, they have shared goals because they're both, like, really fit and into fitness, and they both want to open up a gym. So it's like their vision for the future is a shared vision. So solid on every aspect, basically, even though they broke up.
I literally love that you gave me shit for picking couples that broke up.
I know. What can I say? I'm a hypocrite.
As long as you admit it, it's fine.
Exactly. I know my flaws. I'll admit to it. I'm a hypocrite.
Okay, what's the other ones that aren't where they've broken up and gotten back together?
So the top, although after we film the friends to lovers trope, I might have to downgrade their score a little bit, is Gianna and Riley, because I had said they communicated really well, but you slapped the shit out of me for that one.
Was I or was I not correct?
You're correct.
Sorry, just make sure the mic can pick that up.
You were correct. They had some issues with their communication, so I'll downgrade them a little bit. But I still think they're a couple that is gonna last.
I do agree. I mean, would you have said that had you not have read their epilogue? The next chapter?
I think I would have still believed that they were going to make it, because by the end of On the Same Page, they were communicating. They had put it all out there on the table between the both of them. They both supported each other, like, outside of the poor communication at the, for the most of the book. they did support each other in their career aspirations and goals. Gianna had already sacrificed in a major way to make sure that their goals aligned and that they stayed together because if you recall, her agent wanted her to move to LA, but Riley's career was in Boston.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Boston. So like she had already found a compromise and given some sacrifice. So, she would travel to LA when she needed to, but then she was home based Boston and that was her line with her agent. So she's already like on board to do that. And they found a way to make their friendship work. Um and then honestly, seeing how Gianna struggled with being vulnerable with people, and knowing that with Riley she is able to be so vulnerable, I really think that's a good indicator that they're gonna last as well. Because she felt like she had the space to tell Riley when things were wrong with her, and Riley inherently knew when things were wrong with Gianna. Like when she showed up at Gianna's house after her mom and her dad had announced they got married and they didn't even invite Gianna to the wedding. And like Gianna was trying to say, "Oh no, I'm fine." And she just knew inherently because they know each other so well. Like, I know you're not fine. You can tell me you're not fine. And like Gianna actually breaks down with Riley and is vulnerable. So I really think even though they had that issue with communication at first, I think over the arc of their friendship and then continuing into the next chapters, I think that communication isn't really going to be an issue.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I do think they are a really solid couple.
Yeah. And then of course there's the next chapters which show that they do. But I mean, after kids, you could still technically get divorced. I mean, but I don't think they're going to. I don't see any indicators that they would be anything other than like couple goals.
Yeah, I can't also imagine Haley Cass writing like the next chapter where they get divorced and everything's terrible.
I mean, I don't think so, but she does have her alternate version of Those Who Wait coming out. Yeah, where she's breaking up a happy couple. So, I mean,
Who is she breaking up?
did you not read what it's about?
No, I just saw her Instagram post.
It's a what if they didn't end up together? Like at the end of it. Like what if they decided not to give it a go? After all of the angst and everything. What if they don't?
So they're not together at all? Sutton and Charlotte?
It hasn't come out, so I really don't know where it picks up. But I think it's like if you remember, Sutton and Charlotte had to decide, like they did break up, they stopped talking, they stopped, all contact, and then they came back together. I think this is what if they hadn't have gotten back together, and now they're re-meeting again.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yes. So I mean, there could be a world in which Haley Cass could decide to tear apart my favorite couple. I wouldn't believe her if she told me that these two don't work, quite honestly put. But, I mean, it could always happen.
Wow, I am shook. I did not realise that that's what it was.
Yes, that's what it is. It's like an alternate reality in which what if.
I thought it was literally just them in another universe. So like maybe they were in a university setting or a CEO business setting as opposed to a political setting.
No, if I'm
No,
understanding
I've
it
reading
correctly, yeah. It's a what if alternate ending. So, like I said, Haley could come back and try and give us Gianna and Riley not getting together, but I don't think there is any universe in which, with how solid they are, that happens. For the second couple that I have, though, it is another Haley Cass with Carolyn and Hannah from When You Least Expect It. Hannah Dalton, her ex-husband was Carolyn Parker's like rival of colleague, but rival to get a partnership at their old law firm. And when he got it instead of her, she left because if you're listening to her narrative, which I do, and I believe fully is, he took credit for some work that she had done and so he got it. Gonna throw it out there too. I mean, there could also be some of that inherent sexism that also led to that.
I read the first one from the lawyer's perspective. I did not read the reverse.
Better than expected.
Yes, I did not read that one.
I have read them both. So most of my opinion does come from when you least expect it, because they had solid communication, even though it was kind of tough for Hannah to trust Carolyn, since Carolyn, for all intents and purposes, and Hannah even mentions it in her journal, by all rights, Carolyn should just be like her ex-husband completely. But she isn't. She's like the complete opposite of him. So it does take her time to build that trust and actually trust Carolyn at all. But I think that was a really solid foundation for trust. They communicate really, really well. And then I think one of the best things about this couple is that Hannah is getting out of a very toxic relationship where you could argue financial abuse. Her husband held the purse strings and therefore held control. He was a philanderer. Philanderer? Yeah. Cheater. And so she's basically been made to be meek and to just take on all of the things that he wanted, and she gave up her career, she gave up who she was as a person to accommodate him. And I think the thing I love about this is you see Hannah is trying to build back her life and to get it back on track to how she wants. So she goes back to school, she's paying her own way. And I think the thing that you see here is Carolyn is always really supportive of that. She doesn't try and take any autonomy away from Hannah. She understands where Hannah's coming from and that Hannah wants to be her own person, and she supports it fully. She even watches Hannah's daughter so that she can go to classes and everything and doesn't ask for payment. And she kind of leaves it to Hannah how their relationship is going to move and the pacing of it, because she knows Hannah is on this journey, and so she's supportive of that, and she never pushes like, I want more from you and we have to do this, or like, let me buy you these things because I can. And it actually was one of their fights where she did buy some things for Hannah, and Hannah got upset, like, I don't need anybody to take care of me like that. And she's like, I'm not doing it because I'm taking care of you. I'm doing it because I'm proud of you, and I want you to know, like, I'm proud of you and I want to give you this gift. And so I think they're super solid in their relationship, and I think that's one that's going to last.
It's making me want to reread it. I haven't read it in such a long time, but hearing you talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I want to go back and revisit their story.
It is one of my comfort books as well. I think I've read it at least 4 or 5 times. And you know, with how large my TBR is, that I'm usually just jumping from new book to new book. But it's one that I continuously come back to, because when I'm feeling down, I'm like, I need a little hit of serotonin, and they are going to give me that serotonin hit I need.
Yeah. I think just this week alone, I have read Destination U twice. Just this week.
Weren't you supposed to be getting your art?
Nope.
Don't lie to me.
That's why I needed to read my comfort read. I was stressed about releasing my arcs.
Okay.
They've gone into the world now, so...
They're out in the ether.
But yeah, no, I'm now free to pick up new books, because I haven't read in maybe like a week and a half. The last book I read was Honey in the Marrow.
Oh, wow. That's a long time to not read.
Next on my list is... What's the one I told you I was going to read that you recommended?
I Really Do.
Yes. That's next for me.
That one's so cute. I think their relationship's built to last, too.
What are their character names?
Don't ask me this. I read that like a week ago.
A whole week. Okay, no, yes. So those two. I'm going to read that next, and then I might move on to Body Check.
Nice.
Just letting you know what my book plans are for the foreseeable week, now that I'm a free agent and no longer have to read my book.
But now you gotta write your next one. No rest.
Are you trying to make me have a nervous breakdown live on our podcast?
Maybe. That could be good for views.
I was literally about to say that. Yeah, clickbait. Watch Ellie have a nervous breakdown. And then it's not even clickbait because it actually happens.
Exactly.
I feel like as my editor, you should not be promoting my breakdown.
No, probably not.
No. Let alone pushing me to one.
But as your co-host, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, good lord.
Goodness.
Yeah. Isn't it though really sad? I just had a thought that you and I we've read hundreds probably of Sapphic books.
Yes.
And why is it that we've only managed to pick out like 5 or 6?
I mean,
Like of couples that are built to last.
I have 2 more, so that's like 7. No, but okay, here's the thing though. I'm not gonna say that, like, if they're not on this list, they're not built to last. I guess is, for me, when I think about a couple outside of the book, I think about like the trajectory of where their life might be going, or even like red flags that I see within their relationship of things that might trip them up. And so I kind of look at it in a vacuum like that to say whether or not I think that their couple strength is great. But the thing of it is obviously people grow with time. So that's not to say if like one or both of them have growth over time, or they grow together, or they do have those conversations and sit down and really reassess and realign on where their relationship is, that they won't last in the long term. Or if they start going to couples therapy and examining some of the things that are underlying issues, like, that's not to say that they couldn't be lasting couples. It's just to say, in the vacuum of where I see them right now, if we take a snapshot of the end of this book, do I think they're going to last? And looking at my ratings, these are just the ones that are 8.5 to 10. So I still have plenty that are in the 8, 7.5 range. Like, if you're thinking about couples that'll last, anything over a 5.5 probably could go either way, kind of thing.
Okay, might last, might not.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know these people, these fake fictional characters, and what their external like environments are, or what the writer has planned for them outside of, this small snippet of their relationship.
I have one question for you, and it's slightly off topic.
Oh, I love those.
Which couple would you like to go on a double date with?
A couple I would want to go on a double date with would be Denny and Eliza from Wrong Number, Right Woman.
Do you think your wife would also appreciate Denny and Eliza?
Yeah, I think so, because if I recall correctly, Eliza really liked clothes and shoes and all that girly stuff, and so does my wife. And I'm hoping that me and Denny would be able to talk about sports.
Nice. That would be such a cute double date. You know where you'd have to take them?
Where?
Applebee's.
No, we're not going to Applebee's.
It's your happy place.
It is not my happy place. It is not my happy place. I have forever, like, PTSD from Applebee's.
And that's a whole other story.
Yes, it is. What about you? Who would you and Alex go on a double date with?
I know who I'd go take on my single date.
Wait, you're gonna date the first person?
Okay, not date, but like, I know who I'd want to have dinner with.
Okay, who? Is it Magdalene Knox?
Knox.
Motherfucker, I knew it. I knew it.
I just love her.
Just like I'm able to predict the end of books and movies, I was able to predict that answer.
Oh, I would be in awe of Magdalene Knox.
Okay.
And for double date, I think it's a pretty easy one. It relates to my earlier answer. Raquel and Taylor from Destination U.
Oh yeah, that makes sense completely.
Yeah, me and Raquel can bond over wine, and my partner and Taylor can just be fun and cute and outgoing together.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I definitely think Denny and Eliza, though, and maybe that's part of the reason why I picked them for the double date. I think that would be a couple that would last too. I just think they're a really solid couple because, I mean, they learn to communicate with one another. Denny has the utmost respect for Eliza and her journey of discovering she is bisexual. And then they aren't possessive of one another because Denny does go on a date with Eliza's best friend. And while she does struggle a little bit with jealousy, it's more one of those where when she experiences it, she's like, wait, let me take a second. Why am I feeling jealous? Do I want to be on a date with Denny? Not like, I'm going to treat my friend horribly. I'm going to treat Denny horribly. I'm not going to talk to either of them and getting mad. It's more like, holy shit, I might have feelings for Denny. And so I think that's really solid. But on top of that, too, Eliza's already met Denny's family, and so she knows how family oriented Denny is, and it seems like they share that value. And so I think the goals are aligned. I think that's one that's just going to last because it seems like they were both able to really seamlessly fit into one another's life, and they understand. And maybe some of this comes from Denny's a bit older, if I recall. I think that's also an age gap, and so maybe it just comes to from some of Denny just being more mature.
Yeah, I do think Denny is an incredibly self-aware character.
I love Denny. I don't know if I could say enough how much I love Denny.
Yeah, I feel like I need to revisit their romance.
I don't think Denny gets enough credit. Like, I hear, people talking about how swoon worthy, like, Gianna is, or, like, Ren Acker in Purposely Accidental. A lot of people really enjoy, or Carolyn Parker, and they're all great, and they're all kind of chivalrous as well, a little bit, and take care of their partner. But I think the way that Denny takes care of her partner, it's more impactful. It's a little bit understated how she does it. She quietly supports her partner, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. Kind of silently working in the background and not looking for any credit, or doing it in such a way that, like, it might not be noticed right away.
I completely agree, and I would also add them to my list if I would have remembered. Did I add them to my list? Or is that another episode?
It was a different episode. I think it was the Friends to Lovers.
They are a great example of built to last and friends to lovers.
Yeah. Yeah. They're so cute. I can't even.
I can't even.
I can't even.
You sounded so American.
I feel like I should try a British accent now, and I don't think I can do it. I'm gonna do it and sound like a drunken Irishman or something. I can do a Boston accent. We went to Boston for our honeymoon and to get married legally, since we got married prior to gay marriage being legal in every state. And so, like, being there the week, I heard the accent, and I started just trying it out, and people would look at me kind of funny, and I couldn't tell if it's because they knew it was a fake one, or if they were like, is that fake? Is that real? I can't tell.
So it's really good.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do it now, though. It's just one of those where it's like, I've noticed if I spend a lot of time in a certain area, I pick up the accent really, really quickly. Like when I lived in Texas, I picked up the southern accent, like that Texas twang. And also, Heather obviously has the Texas twang, so I heard it literally like every second of every day, so I started picking it up. And I've noticed if I get really mad or start rambling, I can tend to pick it up as well. It's like I fall into angry Texan.
I'm gonna have to find a really controversial opinion for this podcast, just to draw out the twang.
Maybe you can do a whole episode on Robin Alexander and everything in Louisiana, and I'll just sink into a Texas accent.
I'll play you like a snippet of the audiobook.
There you go. People from Louisiana have a little bit of a different accent, though, than Texans.
Alex has a Louisianian Louisianan accent.
I think that's what it is. Louisianan.
Louisianian.
Louisianian?
I'm being told it's Louisianian.
That sounds wrong. Maybe I'm just thinking about anuses when you say Louisianian.
Shocking.
Anus. Stay on track.
Who else is on your list?
Ren and Madison from Purposefully Accidental, G. Benson. So it's funny because they kind of start as like kid friends and then enemies, and then they re-meet, and then like Madison wants nothing to do with Ren, but Ren's really famous, and so it's kind of hard to ignore her, and so they do like the enemies to lovers a little bit. And Madison seems pretty resistant. But I think the thing for me is we find out that Madison is a widow. And I've like talked about this with Heather before, like if one of us, heaven forbid, passes, I don't know if I'd be able to date anyone else. And she says she doesn't know either if she'd be able to, just because, like, that loss would feel so huge. And so Madison is obviously struggling with that as well. But I think the thing that really would make it so that I believe that Ren and Madison would last is the way that Ren approaches that topic and the way that her and Madison work through that hesitance. Regarding Madison knowing that, like, if my wife was still alive and around, we would still be together, because she never stopped loving her wife. And so I think the way that Ren approaches that so respectfully and is so understanding of that, and even protects Madison when the paparazzi brings it up. Like, Ren is like always the happy-go-lucky, always nice to the paparazzi, but like when that happens, it switches, like, that protectiveness in her, and she just goes off. And I think showing that she was willing to stand up for Madison and that she understands it, and that she even, I think she goes with Madison in the epilogue to the gravesite and is even like at that point where she's saying, like, that I'm going to take care of her and thank you for loving her the way you did when you did. Like, that understanding to me just shows that she is so emotionally mature, and that her love for Madison is real and not surface level, and that she loves every facet of her. And so for me, I think that automatically catapults them into one of the strongest relationships, just through a lot of Ren's actions.
Ren saved the story.
I won't say she saved the story. I mean, Madison still has to obviously work through it, but I will say that, like, Ren carries a lot, I think, of the emotional load of what they're dealing with and how to move forward. That being said, Madison knows about the paparazzi and knows about the invasion of her life and privacy, and she is willing to sacrifice her own privacy to be with Ren, and she understands that it's kind of goes along with the territory. And so I think, like, that understanding can't be understated either.
Yeah, it sounds like a really solid romance. I think I did not finish it.
You? Why would you DNF that book?
I don't remember. It was a long time ago. It's one of the first Sapphic books I started reading.
We are about to fight, because
I don't remember why I did not finish it.
Ren Acker, come on now.
You know my book preferences. If you're telling me you think I'd enjoy it, I will give it another go.
I think you would enjoy it. I think those are the couples that I really think are built to last. That they have a solid base and they're good.
They're great examples of a healthy and a strong relationship.
Exactly. And isn't that what we all need? Is good role models in media.
Yes, I'm all for it.
Exactly. And isn't that what we want to hear about around Valentine's Day? So
Yes, it is.
to all of the listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, like us on our socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok. We do have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. We have a Reddit that you can come chat with us, make recommendations, etc. But yeah, let us know what you want to hear from us. Have a happy Valentine's Day, or maybe hopefully you already had a happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, depending on when this comes out. Have a great 14th of Feb.